a disaster situation. So he thinks we can get around that and go at it from another angle. So we are looking at the possibility of burning. I'm sorry that we're not the city of Rogers with 5 zillion acres of land and millions of people with taxes coming in. Just because a nice large city can manage to do this doesn't mean we can. We have a lot of different problems in most cities, and this is what we're coming up against. We don't have the place to just put. Right now it's not legal and proper to put it in a ravine like I hoped we could do. So it's being worked on. We are looking at it from many angles, and next week is, I never get the name right, it's an energy green thing seminar, and I should know because I'm on the board, but we should get a lot more information from that. Maybe at the next meeting I can give a lot more options.
Thank you, Mickey.
Anybody else?
Mickey.
Okay, no further? Then that one moves on to number 6, discussion of summary hospital commission meeting with the council.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Close open. Mr.
You
Mitchell.
get to do it.
Yes, sir. Mickey and I and the mayor and the fire chief made the meeting with the hospital commission and representatives of the hospital and had a fairly nice discussion, and I think I'm going to turn this over to the mayor now, who might have some more specific information for you that should be done probably now.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, in reference to that meeting, like Alderman Mitchell stated, the city was represented by the mayor's office and by council members, by the chief of the fire department and the hospital administration and the hospital commission. The main issue was the proposed new hospital going out on the ridge just past Miles Musical Museum.
Oh.
I think there's 123 acres out there that they're talking to Mr. Bland about purchasing, dependent upon, and I think this was stated, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the city run new sewer line from where it ends Pivot Rock Road out to Miles Musical Museum up to the property where they intend to purchase. I believe that we were asked to get some figures put together from an engineer firm, and that's being done. And let me just go into that real brief. Before a proper engineer study can be done, according to the McClung Engineering, it will cost us about $5,000. With that, we reverted back to the previous estimate back in 2008, and each one of you have a copy of this before you, and you will see that from Pivot Rock Road to the edge of the city limits, which would be about Miles Musical Museum, because I don't think there's anywhere to run it on the other side of the road. That cost in 2008 was $1,287,500 just for the main line along 62. That does not include Woodridge and Dogwood Ridge, which Dogwood Ridge, if you look at the second page of your paperwork in 2008, that would have cost $522,500 for a total cost of $1,810,000. Okay, the last page is not pertinent because that was done up to Pivot Rock Road. Mr. Allen did get from McClung Engineering that it would be substantially more now in 2014, but they would not give a cost without some commitment to an actual engineer study, which would be, reasonable from that term. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So I guess the point in the nutshell is, and this doesn't include the potential if the water line is not adequate to service the hospital. That would be a separate issue. This is just sewer.
This is just sewer.
Right, and that is an unknown factor at this time. We know there's water there, but we don't know if it's adequate.
That is correct, because they don't have their engineer study.
Right. So I guess the question boils down to this: does the city want a new hospital enough to potentially be spending $2.5 million
That would be a safe estimate, yes, sir.
to get a new hospital. And the issue here is one of timing, because Allegiance filed with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services the petition for the ability to move the hospital out. And the reason they chose that piece of land is when you're getting critical access and you're in a mountainous region, you have to be 15 miles from another hospital. And from the Berryville Hospital to the current location of the hospital now is 14.3 miles. Under the new Affordable Care Act, there's over 1,400 and some critical access hospitals on the book now, and that is one of the areas that they're looking at saving healthcare costs in the future. So when they filed for this, they need to get over 15 miles. Then this new location is 16.2 miles. So they're definitely over. Medicare said everything's fine, but this has to be wrapped by about the third quarter of 2016.
Okay.
Then I don't know if it's the end of 16 or it was the third quarter. It's somewhere pretty close. It's not far. We've only got about 2 years. April, thank you, April of 2016. So timing, gentlemen, ladies, is pretty crucial. So the administrator of the hospital said once they hear from us that we will do this, they're ready to start. So the question is, do we have the money? Do we want it? Do we want a hospital or not?
Mr. DeVito.
A question for Councilman Mitchell. You stated that now with the Affordable Care Act in place, that there's a potential that they would be eliminating these small hospitals in an effort to save money?
They'll be looking at them, scrutinize them very carefully for a way to be doing that, yes. But they do have the letter authorizing them to build the new hospital, and they have the clearance to do that. But they have to have it finished, built, and open by now April of 2016.
But they could always get an extension if they're in the process of building
They
it.
probably could.
I mean,
They assume they can.
Well,
That's what they said.
Yes, you're right.
yeah, I mean, it
Sure.
stands to reason if it's already under. My concerns is the changing in federal regulations, but if it's a risky proposition by any.
And to further clarify this is the city, and we're not in the business now because we've turned it over to a management company, and that was one of the smartest moves this town ever made, was first getting critical access, and the second turning it over to a management company, because if it hadn't been turned over to a management company, you wouldn't have had a hospital to date. It would have been long gone. There's no doubt about it. So, Allegiance is coming in. They're buying the land. They're doing the hospital. They'll recruit the doctors. It'll also have, I think, 24 beds, and it'll also have a shelled-in potential 10-bed ward for expansion of either psych, geropsych, or general psych. At some point, they'd open it. Physical therapy will go out there. The helipad will go out there. No, it's not the best location. Some people would love it in town, but in all honesty, the mileage is a huge issue. So that's kind of where we're at. Does the city want to obligate itself to run sewer and probably water out there at that cost to get a new hospital?
Ms. Snyder.
They gave us really big plans for what they want to do out there that we don't understand where the money will come from for it to stay open. But in the meantime, I also said to them that if they aren't willing to put in the sewer and or water, if they aren't financially willing to, then we would need a contract of intent, and I forget the term tonight, but finances, where if we go the expense of putting it in and then they decide, nah, we're not going to build it, they are then responsible to pay us back. What is that term? I don't remember. Huh? Well, there's an actual term that I can't remember, But basically that means they sign a contract with the city that when you get the sewer out there, we're building the hospital, and if we decide we're not going to, then we'll pay you back for all the money you spent putting it out there. And he's, oh yeah, we'll do that.
Let me make another comment that was also discussed there, and that was the fact that I asked a question to the hospital commission. Can any of the money that the commission has in their coffers be used for this? And they stated they don't think so because they were explicitly told by their attorney it has to be used for direct patient care. Well, like equipment, like we're doing with the ambulances. I don't think sewer lines and water lines to a private company is going to qualify for that money. Mr. DeVito.
At this point in time, I think I don't have the answer to the one question, but I'll pose the proposition is that we dissolve the hospital commission. We're at a point now where we shouldn't be in the hospital business in the first place. That's not something the city should have been involved in, but we do have the property that we are leasing to a management company. The question I don't have the answer to is if we dissolve the hospital commission, where will those funds go? Will they revert back to the general fund? It presents the possibility to address a separate issue, and that is sewering the western ends of town, which has been something that's been on our radar for all the time that I've been in this community, almost 30 years.
Been 68.
So if we are moving to Allegiance building a hospital, then we don't have a need for a hospital commission. We do have a need for that money, and the question that I'm hoping that the city attorney could research is that if we dissolve the hospital commission, where will that roughly $1 million?
I have an answer.
Oh, you do have an answer?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
go for it.
I do have an answer. They're sitting on $1,745,000, and I think the newest leases from the home health in them has just recently came in. So that would probably go up another couple $100,000. By the statute that the hospital commission through the state was under, the funds are earmarked only for health care. We would have to check with the attorney to probably put it under the auspice of the money if you dissolve the commission. And by the way, in that, there is the ability to dissolve the hospital commission. It is built into that statute. You'd probably have to line item, and I'm not going to speak for him because he'll look it up for sure, have to line item that money, and there'll have to be somebody that is overseeing that. Likewise, there's an obligation to buy an ambulance out of that already. I think, is that not
Ambulance
true?
and equipment, yes.
An ambulance and equipment of about $350, somewhere in that range.
Ballpark.
And so the actual money that is sitting there, will probably give or take, will be about $1,300,000. But if you go another couple of years, we'll probably bounce up $300,000-400,000 in leases. So we'll be back pretty close to that $1.7 million, again earmarked.
So that's the $1.7 million question right now is where will that money end up if we dissolve the hospital commission? And I think that's primarily the question we have to have answered before we can go anywhere with this.
Mr. Snyder?
I think this would be really, really bad timing to dissolve the hospital commission right now when we're talking them maybe building a hospital and making sure we get our legal contracts, this, that, and the other, simply because they are dealing with them. I'd rather see one small group of commissioners and one small group of hospital people working together to get things carried out than have it all have to go through here. The commissioners are doing a very good job. It's not like they're getting a percentage of the income. They don't get paid either. I would hate to do something like that right now. I think we need the middleman, so to speak, to make sure we get our paperwork. And it's not like it's costing the city to have them do it. And this way we know the money is properly pinpointed in one spot and everything is being overseen through one experienced group of people, and then our attorney on the legal end.
Mr. Mitchell.
Because timing is so important, we or I suggested that we would have an answer that yes, we will, or no, we will not run the appropriate lines for the hospital, and was hoping we would be able to give them that answer by the second meeting in July. Gentlemen, it takes, think about this, they got to develop the land, they've got to plat it out, they've got, architects are all done, the building's all designed, everything is ready to go. And it's going to take a good while to build it. So if we, either it's you know, and y'all have been discussing this, or this town's been discussing a new hospital or not a new hospital for what, 7, 8 years? I don't know, long before I got here. And so the bottom line is it's time to either cut a fish or cut bait, or whatever that old saying is, you know. Let's basically get on with it. And that's not discounting a couple $1 million for water and sewer, but what the bottom line is, how bad do you want a hospital? You either want to pony up the money and let Allegiance do it. And again, they're putting out 15 to 20 million. What you heard in the past about when Rock Bordelon came that time, said, oh, we could build one for $5 million. I don't know what he was smoking, but it wasn't. That's not going to fly. It's going to cost them a good $20 million to put a 24-bed and a shelled unit in. Minimum. 20 million. That'll be a couple surgeries, helipad, and all.
Well,
if they want to put it, 20 million, and it's all on their dollar and all on their credit.
I'm sure that the unsewered areas would be delighted to hear that they are going to finally get sewers because somebody wants to build a hospital. But the truth of the matter is that we don't have anywhere to get the money to put a sewer line from here out to that ground that the hospital wants to build on. I mean, there isn't anywhere to get that kind of money. If we would have been able to get the money, we would have had the unsewered areas sewered long ago. But it's never been there. It's not coming from the state. We tried to get it during Danny Joy's administration, and there wasn't any money then. So the question is not whether we want a hospital, but where are we going to get the money to build a sewer?
Mr. McClung.
Yeah, I agree with James. It's critical that the only way that that we could go about doing this would be if we can have access to those funds, because there would not, having the sewer line put in out there at the cost of $2.5 million or whatever it's going to be, is we have no way to recover that. We just don't. There would not be anything built, connection fees enough and sewage usage out there for a long time to even come close to covering the debt service on it.
Yeah.
So that's and I'll bet you, I really think that if we look, I'll bet there's a way to tap that cash.
Not according to the finance director, not right now.
Yeah.
It's not. But we're still $6 million in bond covenants on the other issues, the wastewater issues. Mr. Mitchell.
Oh, no, wait. In one side of me thinks, if I was over on Allegiance and the lease is on the current building has
5 more years, I think.
we're in the third, and then there may not be.
I think
there
there's
is
one
or
more
there
5-year option. I think.
There's one more after
Yes,
this.
I think
So, they could stay another 3 years, and then they may opt to pick it up again. The building isn't collapsing on them. It's not the best building. They're obviously, if they're looking to spend $20 million, there's obviously something going on here that they're making some kind of money. And don't forget, a lot of that probably is cost shifting. Under the Medicare report, they're cost shifting a lot of the overhead at the Shreveport main company with billing and HR and all that. They're cost shifting up, and then it's running through the cost report and getting reimbursed from Centers for Medicare at a little over 100%. That was the advantage for critical access hospitals. So it's not so much the money they're making off the inpatient and the swing beds that are sitting there now on a per diem rate. A lot of it probably is cost shifting. But again, this could also be, I hate to be paranoid about it. This could be just a business ploy on their part to us. Is basically, hey, you won't put the sewer out there. We're history, and then the hospital is shutting down on your dime. So what does that leave us? It leaves us hauling it to Berryville or the city, and I know how people feel. You know, it's not like the auditorium. It's probably bigger. But the bottom line is that may be the future of healthcare. Is you're going to have to access Berryville or not. In which case, we're really going to need a good ambulance service, folks, or a really good one. Not that we don't have one now, but get ready.
Mr. Purkeypile.
Mr. Mayor, it sounds to me like we need to be able to update these costs. McClung Engineering said, for $5,000 we can update these costs so that we know what we're talking about here. We also need to be able to investigate whether we can obtain or by decommissioning the hospital commission or whatever means, if this private entity wants to take over the hospital, then we need to be able to obtain those funds, if at all possible, to make this happen. I think at this point, I'd like to make a motion to engage McClung Engineering to update these costs for us so that we can find out really where we stand. Is it going to be $2.5 million or is it going to be $3.5 million?
Up to the max, up to $5,000.
Yeah, they actually stated no more than $5,000.
I second that.
Okay. Mr. DeVito.
I hesitate to commit $5,000 for an academic exercise. Because without millions of dollars, an engineer's survey is not going to do anything for us. The question before us is, if we dissolve the hospital commission and have access to probably $1.5 million to $1.75 million, there lies the potential of doing this. So the question should be, prior to an engineering study, is if dissolving the hospital commission accesses that amount of money, then we have the potential, and only with the potential should we be spending $5,000 on an engineering fee. So I would rather have the first question, in my opinion, the first question answered before we proceed with an engineering study.
Mr. McClung.
Mr. DeVito, you voted to approve $5,000 to build a little bandstand down on North Main 2 weeks ago. So, this sounds a whole lot more critical and important than that does to me. So, I'm all for it.
Yes, sir.
I agree that we need to find out about those funds, and this can go on commensurate with the same activity. We need to find out here what, and $5,000 is minimal. This is just going to be an opinion of probable cost. I mean, and I could go in here and probably come up with, a unit cost for all this and update this, just using means construction data. But that's what they will do for us, and then they'll back that up, and it would be no more than $5,000. Is that correct? Is that what they told you?
That's what Dwayne told me that Daniel said from McClung Engineering, no more than $5,000.
I think that's a good investment. We really need to know what we're going to be spending here. At the same time, let's go ahead and find out how we go about, obtaining those funds if we can legally. How do we do so?
Mr. Weaver.
I bet we're looking at a $3.5 million
We looked at-
project.
Have to be legal.
We looked at accessing those funds once before. And one of the problems is if you decommission the hospital commission, it'll shut off the spout. You're killing the golden goose. There will be no more funds coming in. At that time was what we determined. There was some question about what would happen to the funds, and it never got really completely answered because no one wanted to shut off the funds that were coming in at the time. But it looked like at least part of the funds would have to be turned over to a critical access hospital in the region. But I won't tell you that was a certainty because it was never resolved between the 4 or 5 attorneys that were looking at it at the time. There was some for Allegiance at one point doing that. There was some looking for the hospital commission. And I was reviewing some of the documents and there was another private attorney from the state, or not a private attorney, but an attorney from the state.
Yeah, the hospital commission has a healthcare
I
attorney they use.
think you're going to lose at least part of the funds, and you definitely are going to lose the income stream.
Right now, it's all speculative, though. Let's.
If the engineering does it, would they include sewer and water for us? That didn't include, the 5,000 wasn't sewer and water if the engineering firm
Just
looked at it?
wastewater.
Just updating this, basically.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
would-
that was my next comment to make, that council needs to understand that this is just wastewater.
I mean, yeah.
So like you stated, you're looking at about 2.5 on the updated version from the 2008 till now, and that's without the water side of it.
So how much?
But there is existing lines there now, which may or may not be adequate for servicing the facility once it's built.
See,
Dwayne doesn't know the size of the. Would he know the size of the line? Could he give us a down?
He
and
would,
dirty on
yes,
it?
but right now I don't know what it is. Yes.
well, see, that's why it's important for us to find out if we're not even in the ballpark, and this $1.7 million, which we know, is less than that, would not even come near covering the city's part of this, we may not be able to do it, period.
Correct.
But we have to know what that number is before we can even think about it.
And that's the
Where
bottom
would
line.
this wastewater go?
It goes to our wastewater
To a
treatment
treatment
plant.
station.
Well, yeah, but that's a lot of wastewater.
Well, they pay for it.
I mean, I know we can do 1 million gallons a day, but that sounds like a lot more than 1 million
We've got plenty
gallons.
of capacity.
You're going to be giving up the hospital for another hospital, so, tit for tat. so to speak.
According to this study, I believe it states, and I'll give my copy of it, but it's 6,400 feet from Pivot Rock Road to
That's right.
the end of that, and that's what, 200. Oh, okay. $35 a foot for a total of $224,000 just for the pipe, and then all the other costs are added in.
But that's complete and in place.
Yes,
That's excavated
yes,
and in place.
that's what I understand. Yeah. And most all of that on that end is rock. It's rock. So, I'm just
And you
saying.
have to have a lift station.
Yeah, probably a couple.
So then basically the bottom line is if we can't come up with, after the engineering study, if we can't come up with $2.5 million and we can't access bonds and we can't do this, then we just need to say, folks, it's over, and we hope you stay the 3 years to the end of this, and they do have an out on their part. They can get out. We can't call it. We don't have a cut and run clause in their contract with them. They do have one. Chances are they won't, because they put a lot of stuff in they want to recoup. Whether they'll extend it 5 years after that, who knows? But we need to be prepared that basically it's over at the point we can't give them what they want.
Well, this is the negotiation.
That's it.
But we've just begun the negotiation. And if they really want it, and if they can, what'd you call it, cost what? Cost moving, cost sharing, what was it?
Well, they can't cost shift the sewer part over. That won't go under Medicare and all, just the cost of running.
Okay,
lines.
but if they really want it, if they really want this hospital in place so they can do the cost shifting, from other facilities.
We'll find out, won't we?
Yes, I mean, if we cannot afford it,
That's right.
we cannot engage in
That's
this activity.
In that discussion
Yeah, it
right
sounds
there
like
is-
they've got some big money to be made.
I was trying to understand the cost shifting and all that stuff. Is the question being asked of Allegiance, will they put in the line and transfer it over to the city for upkeep and maintenance? That's not been asked yet.
I thought we asked them.
See,
Well, and,
we didn't ask.
and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page on this issue, because I understood the hospital to say, Mr. Barriola, that if we do not put the line in, they will not build the hospital.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Those words came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. I may be speaking out of turn here, but
Please do so.
I was going to wait.
No, it's your turn. Go ahead.
okay.
I was going to wait till after.
I was going to do this during Mayor's comments, but since we're on the subject, I just want the council to understand. I go to all these commission meetings, and I sit there and I listen to everything, and it's nothing against the current administration of the hospital. I think they're doing an excellent job. There has been previous problems I think in the federal court, previous problems with the owners of Allegiance. I don't think it turned out well for the city of. All of a sudden, there's a place to put a hospital, and now it's up to us. All of a sudden.
Oh,
Pardon me.
it's a sham.
Pardon me, Mayor. It didn't turn out well for who?
The city
Allegiance.
of. Apparently, the city of Eureka Springs did not fare well in that judgment in federal court. It's my understanding.
No, we did.
Oh, we did?
it was the
Okay,
home
okay.
health. They
Home
thought they
health,
got,
okay.
when they got the lease
Okay.
originally,
All right. Well, then
they
I'll
thought they
retract
were
that
also
statement.
getting home health. And home health they did not get.
Okay.
And it actually worked in our favor. Now, definitely Rock Bordelon, the CEO, owner of Allegiance, the company, was not a happy camper because that's a big revenue stream. Home health is a huge revenue stream. And he was probably counting on that when they were doing the pro forma for here. There was no doubt. But it was ruled that the city did not negotiate in that first lease. So that's why there's two leases. There's a lease, and I forget who has the lease on the home health, and Allegiance has this. So there was some animosity and blood, and then the negotiations, the hospital commission through the hospital is always, or the city has always been saying, but you promised to build a new hospital, you promised to build a new hospital. So is this a promise that's predicated on the fact that they know that it ain't going to happen? Probably. The chances are high. If you were a gentleman of Rock Bordelon stature with that going on, this could just be, hey, come on, cough it up or don't cough it up. That's why Mickey's idea of even at the last minute, even building in that Allegiance would pay back even if we ran the line and had the money to do it, that we have to cover ourselves, because you're dealing with a for-profit, very astute business person, and you must be very careful.
Ms. Snyder.
Okay.
One of the things that my big concern is, in the end, will they do it? It's one of those cases where I'll believe it when I see it. When it comes to us spending a few million to put in the sewer versus them adding a couple million to, would you say, 20 million? Probably at least. What's another couple million in that regard? But the the thing to me that I just thought of that might be possible, if they put in the sewer line, and we would need to see every bill receipt for putting in the sewer line, we would give them free sewerage until we met that thing.
We can't do that.
Why?
We can't give a free service.
No, what I mean is, okay, let's say they spend $1 million putting in the sewer line. Would it be possible, with their little sewer meter of every month, let's say it's $100, that we put that towards the bill of what we owe them, which would be that $1 million? See what I'm
Who
saying?
says we're going to own anything?
No, this is what I'm saying. If they pay to put it in, we would take their monthly statement for sewer usage against what it would have, our $1 million of putting in the sewer lines. Of course, we own the sewer lines, but see what I'm saying?
Mr. Weaver.
You would have problems, first of all, just at first glance, with encumbering the city into a debt service that's longer than we're allowed to by state law.
Like 100,000.
Because you would be...
Could they
Okay.
connect
You're
directly
getting our
to
great-grandchildren there.
Carol Boone? No, seriously, could they connect directly to Carol Boone without going through us?
Carol Boone is a water line,
Yeah, not sewer.
not sewer.
That's
Oh,
what they
okay.
need.
The only option they would have would be to build their own sewer.
Okay, I'm just thinking
And they're not willing
of
to do that either.
ways
That's
they can
from
get
my
around
understanding.
this.
That's
Not
what
building
makes me
that.
so suspicious, and why I said
Okay.
contract of intent with the financial responsibility clause.
We have a motion on the table for $5,000.
They could do their own water.
One last comment before we do that. Reminiscent back to the Walmart issue that came before the previous council. That Walmart was going to put in 1,500 feet of new sewer line on the other end of town, and it was turned down. They were going to put it in a lift station, then turn it over to the city. So, just saying, it could be done. If
That part
you're
could be done,
sincere
yeah.
about it, yes. Okay.
Fair.
Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Oh, wait. So the motion is what, to spend $5,000 to
Spend
update our
$5,000
list?
for the engineer study for
Well,
the...
actually, it's to engage McClung to update the costs up to $5,000.
Up to $5,000.
Okay.
So all in
Aye.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I didn't hear a no.
6-0.
Okay. Moves us on to resolution for transit tram engine. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Let me kind of feel this one since it was given to me this morning, or yesterday morning by Smitty, the director of transit. The propane engine in one of the three trams, or no, one of the two trams that was running has give up the ghost. They want to do a complete engine swap out to gasoline, which includes a new gas tank, for the tune of $3,000, and that was the amount that Smitty gave me, and you have the resolution before you. That's pretty much it in the ballpark. This will put, it's more reliable than the propane. Oh, you don't have it? I thought you did.
I don't think
Could
so.
Okay.
somebody read it to us?
I'm not having.
Yes. I thought I can give you copies. I apologize for that. Resolution amending the, okay.
Just give us some meat and potatoes of it.
Yeah, just, right. Well, that's, you did.
I did. I just did. Yeah. City tram blue and engine replacement costs $3,000.
There you go. That's
Come out of capital improvement.
So we're paying for it. They're
We
not-
own the trams.
Okay, yeah,
The
that's,
city of owns the trams. It's not federal money. It's city money.
So I make a motion, we assign the resolution a number and read it. I think
Read it
that-
for passage.
Read it for passage. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Wow, we're spending money. We just can't spend $2.5 million.
Resolution number will be 640, a resolution amending the adopted 2014 budgets for the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas has determined that the 2014 fiscal budget should be amended. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Section 1, that a city-owned tram has a blown engine and replacement will cost in the amount of $3,000. Section 2, that the funds shall be allocated for the purchase of the tram engine and paid from Capital Improvement Fund, the Capital Improvement Fund. Section 3, upon passage of this resolution, all changes will be entered into the general ledger.
Okay, thank you. Let's make it back on the road. No more under new business brings us to agenda setting. Mr. DeVito.
I'd like to put the topic of a parking garage back on our agenda.
Second.
Any further, sir?
No.
Mr. McClung.
nothing.
Mr. Mitchell.
Nothing.
Ms. Purkeypile.
Nothing.
Ms. Snyder. Mrs. Zeller.
No.
Council comments. Mr. DeVito.
Well, hope everybody had a good Memorial Weekend, and in just a little while, the summer season's going to kick off, and I think we'll have a good year.
Mr. McClung.
I had numerous complaints about the cemetery, that it was we're just really not ready for Memorial Weekend. I know we have only just one person out there working, and with the rains and everything, it's been a tremendous amount of work to do to try and keep up with it, just the mowing, let alone the weed eating and picking up limbs, and it's just and I don't have any answer for it. I really don't. But at least this one time a year, something needs to be done, whether it's through volunteerism or the cemetery commission reaching into their back pocket and hiring a little extra help for the month of May, something to at least get caught up the one time a year.
Yes.
But a lot of people
Is it?
have said things to me. So it's a beautiful cemetery,
Yes, it is.
and it's an important part of our community and our heritage here, and so it's just something to think about.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
No.
Mr. Purkeypile?
No.
Ms. Smatter?
I hope you all had a good Memorial Day. I enjoyed being able to honor that day and my various loved ones. We had a very interesting, although at times draggy, rural Arkansas seminar last week. Did learn a lot of stuff. And actually, it's kind of disappointing. It's all about grants, and boy, I don't think we probably fit the criteria for hardly any of them. But they did make really good, interesting points. So we're keeping up with that, too. My Marine son's house survived the fires. Thank God for that. They weren't sure, but they did. Other than that, I think that's probably it this time.
Ms. Zeller?
Well, something came up in our discussions of yard waste that really concerned me. I don't know there's anything we can do about it. I think we need a committee sort of like what we had to improve the springs. The problem is that we're going to be losing our trees in Eureka Springs to strangler grapevines and to the very invasive vines that are growing here. They're wrecking everything. They're destroying the stone walls. The strangler grapevines are killing the trees, and we don't have the money to maintain the urban forest, but we do really need some kind of a program or something to get rid of some of these vines and to get rid of, especially to preserve the trees. I had a tree outside my office window that I've been nursing along for the last 10 years, and it was being attacked by grapevines. And I've discovered that if you just take a saw and cut them off at the ground, you don't even have to pull them out of the tree. They just simply die, and that's the end of it. But we need somebody in town concerned about our urban forest, and we need a committee to do something about the invasive vine growth and the way that the trees are dying, or they're going to be all gone. There isn't going to be anything left.
That it?
That's all.
Okay. Only comment I have is basically a list of events, but let me go back to the stage that y'all approved at the last meeting. There were 4 acts held on the new stage on Saturday. It was a great event. The stage looked great in the park. Be a good asset to that end of town. So,
4?
huh?
4?
I believe it was 4 acts played from morning till afternoon. And it looks good. Get a chance to go down there and take a look at it. On a more private note, we are working on our new flagpole on top of Plainer Hill. They poured the base for it yesterday or the day before. It's got a cure, and then we'll put up our 40-foot flagpole with our 8x12 flag at the top of Plainer Hill, like everybody told us to do because they didn't want them downtown. So it's going to be up on top of the hill. And it's not big enough to knock cars off the road when the wind blows them, so don't worry about that. Okay. Just want to make that very clear. List of events. We are winding down the end of May. I believe the episode in the North Main Park was the last May Fine Arts issue that came up. So May the 28th through June the 1st, Moto Marathon. I don't know what that is, but that's what's written here. May the 31st, May Festival Gallery Stroll from 6 to 9 p.m. June the 7th through the 8th is the 9th Annual Lake Leatherwood Xterra. June the 7th is Eureka, The Art of Being at 7 p.m. at the auditorium, which I believe is a video or a movie. June the 8th is The Music Men movie at the auditorium at 7 p.m. Motion to...
Wait. Runoff election, I forgot, on the 10th, please.
Runoff election on the 10th? Okay, you can tell the camera that on.
Oh, right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. June 10th is a runoff election for, I think it's the lieutenant governor. I'm sorry, I haven't had sleep in 2 weeks. But that will be on June 10th, and the early voting starts 10 days before. Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion adjourned.
Bye.